true. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keeps dealing me cards, I keep fitting in love.
Yes, people, we're back in the building. Another video, another scout report for you guys today. Guys, please make sure you like, please make sure you share, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button, please. If we can get to over 25 likes, I know I never really put targets on these things, but if we can, just to get to over 25 likes on this video. So obviously we already know Liverpool midfielders this summer, we're getting linked to everybody. And like I said before about some of these scout reports, some of these players that I might look at, they might not necessarily be players that are going to join Liverpool, so to speak. They're probably just going to be more players that I might just think, you know what, they may just fit the bill, so to speak. You know, they might just be a player who could potentially join the club. It might be a little report from someone saying that we may be in for this kind of guy. And, you know, if you guys have got any players that you think I should take a look at, any players that you find interesting, players that you think could fit the Liverpool team in a general sense, let me know in the comment section below, please. And yeah, I'll go away and have a little look at these players. But today we're here to talk about Turkish international Orkun Kokcu, or Kokcu, however you want to pronounce it. So the Turkish international plays for Feyenoord, obviously in the Eredivisie. Very good player, very good midfielder. Is a player who obviously has captained Feyenoord to winning the league. So, you know, he's on quite a few teams' radar at this current moment in time. Might be on, I think, maybe even Manchester United potentially looking at him. A few other clubs. I know that Liverpool, as I said, there have been talks that Liverpool are potentially, you know, looking at a player like this. As I said, apparently big admirers of Kokcu, as well as another player, Tijani Reinders. So, you know, it's he's one of those kind of players, where I'm not saying, as I said, I don't want anyone to think, oh, we're signing him, blah, blah, blah. It's not that at all. It's just more a player that has been touted potentially for Liverpool, and just to kind of take a deeper dive into the man himself. So we can see here, I'll take this banner off for you guys. You can see here, he's played the majority of his games, obviously, in central midfield and on the attacking midfield area. He's also playing his youth days. He also played on the left-hand side as well, which kind of makes me think, okay, he's probably more comfortable as maybe a left central midfielder potentially, but you know, that's not exclusive. You know, that doesn't mean he can't play right central midfield, for example, in Liverpool's team, in that Henderson position or in that Curtis Jones position for Liverpool. So, you know, decent player. You know, doing the report on him, he looks like a very comfortable player. That's probably the best thing I can say about him. Looks like he's comfortable on the ball. He's got good technical ability. Does he tick the boxes, so to speak, for a Liverpool team? Is he a player who you would want in your team? I would say as an option, potentially. I'm not necessarily even saying he could be a starter, but he's definitely an option. I think that would be better. You know, it comes into almost that, you know, the Naby Keitas and the Oxlade-Chamberlain, when you're looking at all of these players kind of leaving, you know, not all the players. Well, I mean, I don't know what Liverpool are going to do for the summer. I don't know whether or not, you know, we're just going to go out and sign 4 starters, for example, or whatever. Maybe not, because we kind of already have players in there, unless you're going to take everyone out of, say, the midfield position, which I don't see him doing. So, you know, it might just be a few players here, dotted here and there, and then you've got your subs, you know, players who can potentially become these first team players. And I think, you know, Kokcu, I feel like he falls into that category of could be a first teamer, but might start out as like a squad player, and then obviously he has to build into his role. But he's a very good player, man. He is a very good player. As I said, Turkish international, captain Feyenoord this season, to winning the league. And when I'm looking at the stats, that's probably one thing I'll say. When I was looking at the stats of him, I don't like going by numbers, so I had to go away and actually watch a few of the highlights in terms of the games this season in the Eredivisie, sorry. when I'm looking at that league, and I'm just trying to. I'm taking into account it's that league, which is not the strongest league, but it's a very technical league. And when he's playing under Arnold Slot, who's obviously currently being potentially touted by Tottenham, I'm looking at the way that they play. And I saw a game that Feyenoord played against Ajax this season. I think they had a man sent off in that game, and Feyenoord went on to win. When I'm watching the way that Feyenoord play, just maybe going a little bit off topic, when I'm watching the way that they play, I'm like, wow, they really do play some good football. They were down to, I think, 10 men. I'm sure someone got sent off. And just the patterns of play, the fast football, the passes were zipped, into players' feet, the movement of the players, playing between the lines, defensively, they were pretty decent as well. And this is against Ajax, who are ultimately, the strongest team in that league. And when I was watching that game, I was very, very impressed. And I was definitely impressed with Kokcu's performance, in that game. And when we take a look, at the type of player that he could potentially be, you're looking. I'm just taking a quick look here. Obviously, talking about Liverpool being admirers. For him, we've had an eye on these kind of Dutch players. Obviously, Van Dijk, Cody Gakpo's, and then obviously now potentially Kokcu. He's not a Dutch player, but obviously plays in the Dutch league, and we're looking at a whole host of other players. But when I'm thinking about him. This is a scout report on the player himself. They talk about his strong passing ability. Kokcu's been able to convert, this into chances for Feyenoord attackers this season. He averages about 2.83 shot creating actions per 90 minutes, which is in the top 14% of European midfielders this season. This report was put out, I believe, in March. So a couple of months back. So maybe he's gone up, maybe he's gone down in terms of the percentage, but let's say he's in and around that. Defensive contributions, they're not really a big part of his game, which are obviously his tackles and pressures in the final third specifically still remain relatively solid. He averages 0.53 tackles in the final third per 90, which is in the top 5%, and 4.78 pressures in the final third per 90, which puts him in the top 8%. Now, this is where I then go to him being able to play in that, would I say, potentially Henderson role, or on the left-hand side, whichever side you want to put him in. I think he could play both roles, to be honest with you, and I think he'll be comfortable in any of them. When I look at something like that, I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is a guy who is able to win the ball back up high. Now, when he does win the ball back up high, is he then able to create chances for the attackers? Is he a player who's comfortable, first and foremost, in those kind of areas? We know that we need a player who is comfortable. Yes, we need, in terms of a Jordan Henderson, and what I mean by that is someone who is able to help out defensively, but at the same time, it kind of works both ways, because you need someone who's going to be able to help out the attack, because they're still going through, their kind of thing of, they're not really pressing the way that we need the attack to press. Okay, cool. If they are not going to press, is the midfield going to do that? I saw quite a lot with Naby Keita. He was someone who did that quite a lot, was able to help out the attack in the high pressures, in that final third position. He looks like a player who could potentially, do that. We look at his passing. In terms of his passing, he averages about an 86% completion rate. This increases for 91 passes in his own half. So again, in that defensive kind of position, he averages a very impressive 6.56 progressive passes per 90. And again, this is in the top 9% for midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues. So, he's doing something right. He's doing something right. 1.95 passes into the penalty area per 90. And that is in the top 3%. Again, don't like going by stats. So when I'm doing a video like this, I prefer if you guys go away and actually watch him with your own 2 eyes. Watch him in all games. I know you might not be able to find a full game highlight, but just watch maybe, a lot of these teams, they do like long highlights. Obviously, over here in England, we've got the Sky Sports highlights or the BT Sport, which is like 2-3 minutes. You're not really going to be able to, that's just there for the goals or the action parts of the game. Go away and watch 10-minute highlights. Even that, I think you can get a good enough picture in terms of a player. Go away on YouTube, guys, and type it in and just watch a player in a game, and you'll be able to see, a player watch of someone in a match. So Feyenoord versus Ajax, for example. If you go online and check it out, you'll be able to pinpoint or pick any player that you want, and you'll be able to kind of just get a better feel of these kind of players. And if you do that for quite a few of the players, or for any player basically that you think might be able to potentially do a job for the team, you'll see the good and bad. I'm not saying he's perfect. You know what I mean? Because I definitely don't think he's that kind of guy. But I think he's someone who could potentially come in, and do a job. We go obviously to his touches in games. As I said, being comfortable on the ball and when he's receiving the ball, competent with both feet, cool and composed in attacking areas. His average of 3.54 touches in the opponent penalty box per 90, obviously, as I said, in the top 3%. Also averages 2.30 carries in the final third per 90, and this ranks in the top 11%. Again, all good numbers. Numbers-wise, if you're just looking at stats and you hadn't ever watched him before and I just threw these stats at you, you'd say this is a good midfielder. And we know about the data, how Liverpool are so data-driven with the players that they try to sign and stuff like that. And I don't think he's going to cost you a hefty fee coming from Feyenoord, even though he is their captain, even though he is one of their talisman in the team. I don't see him costing you an arm and a leg to be able to get a player like him in. So I think, a player that maybe we should potentially be looking at. As I said, guys, you do your own research and you go away and have a look, at a player like that. FBREF or FBREF, however they kind of pronounce it. This is obviously his statistics for this season. Looking at non-penalty goals, 95%. I'm not going to run through all of them, just really the ones that kind of, caught my eye. Shot creating actions this season, 6.36 per 90s in a 99th percentile. Passes attempted, again, 99th percentile, 83.57. Progressive passes, again, 12.17, 99th percentile. Progressive carries, 2.87, really, really good. Touches, 82, pretty decent. And also in terms of just an attacking sense, non-penalty goals, shots, total in games, assists, not really there, to be honest with you. And that kind of tells me that he's more of, he would fall into that Henderson kind of category. You might not expect him to get you a bundle of assists, but he might just be he sounds like he'll be the guy who's the assist before the assist kind of guy. He's going to be the one who's going to win you the ball. He's going to be the one who win the ball high up, release it to someone else who would then obviously do whatever it is, that they need to do. Defensively, though, a bit to be desired, to be honest with you. Tackles, you can see there at the bottom it's obviously all red. Tackles, interceptions, blocks, and clearances. He doesn't really rank that high. So that might be an area where potentially Liverpool might look at and think, is that what we need? Maybe not. Who knows? Kind of thing. I don't really know. Now, I decided to take a look at him versus like a few players. So right now, obviously, we're looking at Curtis Jones. Now, this is obviously for this season. You can take into account the games and all of these kind of various different things. But it was just good to just kind of see the type of player that he is in a general sense. Now, obviously, this is ground duels contested. First of all, you can see Jones obviously doing way better than him in this statistic or in this metric. Ground duel success, obviously a lot better. Interceptions, Kokcu seems to be pretty decent at those. Take a look at the take-ons completed, both quite equal. Success, obviously, his is just a little bit, quite a bit better, should I say, than a Curtis Jones. Again, but Curtis Jones, in terms of the ground duels, he does pretty good work when it does come to ground duels. And as I said, when it does come to Kokcu defensively in these one-on-one or in these duels in a general sense, is that something that maybe we're looking at and thinking might be a tad bit of a red flag? I don't really know. I don't know if that's a main concern or if that's just something that could be just potentially be better in a better team, in a different formation, in a different system. The system that Feyenoord play obviously is a lot different to the system that Liverpool play. Feyenoord are quite a quick, zippy, build-up play team. As I said, the way that they play in terms of playing between the lines and things like that, they're really good at that. The movement of the players, and it was just the fast movement of the players that I really looked at and thought, wow. Whereas Liverpool are not really like that. We're kind of counter-attacking, very slow on the ball. The passes don't really move as quickly as they should be. We're a kind of a long ball team, so could be different in a different team. He might not be required to do some of the same roles that he's been doing at Feyenoord anyway. But when he's on the ball, pretty decent. Chances created, better than Jones. Passes attempted, completion, pretty decent. Long passes, he completely shits on Jones in that regards. But that might just be because he might be in certain matches, he's playing in a bit of a deeper role within that. Long pass accuracy, Jones is actually a lot better than him through balls. Jones just pips him to that. Passes completion in the own half, that one was a little bit just because of the position that Jones has obviously played this season. So, I wasn't really too bothered with that. But the forward passes is what I was really looking at, because I was like, Jones, as we know, is a player who, when he does play in that kind of 8 position, doesn't make too many forward passes. He is a player who does like to hold on to the ball a little bit. He's got better at it, obviously, this over these last few weeks and months. But he is a player who does hold on to the ball, and most of his passes are going to be back. Whereas Kokcu, in the position that he plays, most of his passes are going forward. But obviously that's versus Jones. Now, obviously, to the one versus Mac Allister, which I found quite interesting when I was looking at both of these players this season. Passes in opponent's half, which I thought was a little bit, I thought maybe Mac Allister would kind of come out on top in this metric because of the type of player that he is, the position that he does play for Brighton. But Kokcu obviously comes out on top in this regard. Forward passes as well. Again, what are we looking for in the midfielder that we are trying to sign? What type of a midfielder? Again, Kokcu comes out on top in that regard. But when it does come to the dual side of thing, and I don't know if that is, for me, from some of the stats and the metrics that I'm looking at, this might play a pivotal role. But when we're looking at the duels, you can see when it does come to Mac Allister versus Kokcu, Mac Allister obviously is, streets ahead in that regards. Chances created, which I found, again, interesting. Mac Allister, 1.4, passes attempted, passes completed, long passes, successful long passes, he's coming out on top. So when he's on the ball, he looks like a very, very good and tidy player from all of these metrics that we're seeing here. It's more, would we say, when we're trying to win possession back, potentially, it's more in the dual side of things. That, for me, is the big key. This is obviously this is against Mason Mount. Mason Mount hasn't played that many games. Well, hasn't really featured too much recently anyway. So this might be skewed potentially. But again, just wanted to take a little look at it so you guys can kind of see how he fares or how he matches up against some of the players that we've been linked with, players that we might potentially sign, and obviously players that we already have in our team. Ball recoveries, again, 4.7 to 8.2. Chances created, passes attempted, passes completed, short passes completed. Duels, again, I keep saying it. It's the dual side of things. Is that going to play a part in the thinking behind trying to sign a player potentially, like this? Passes completed in his own half, obviously does more. Opposition half, he does a lot more, almost basically double the amount of a Mason Mount. Successful long passes, 4 to 1.4. So, you're getting a little bit of a picture of the type of player that Kokcu might potentially be, and how he may or may not, it depends on your opinion, how he may or may not fit into a Liverpool team. This is his heat map from this season. So you can see he's kind of everywhere, to be honest with you. He is kind of everywhere. Would I say mainly in the 8 position? That I'm using our formation in that kind of 8 position, both on the left and the right side of the pitch. Can play a little bit deeper when he needs to, and he's a player when he does drop deep into these kind of positions where he does want to pick up the ball from the midfielders and stuff like that. Because he's so cool and composed on the ball, I don't feel like I'd be fretting, so to speak, when he does have the ball and him, oh my goodness, he's got the ball. I don't want the ball to get to him there because he might lose it and stuff like that. Like I said, with the way that Feyenoord play and the way that they zip the ball about quickly, I feel like he'd be okay to potentially play in the Premier League, even though our intensity might be a little bit more than it is in Eredivisie. I still think to myself, when I'm looking at a player like that who seems to be cool, calm, and collected when he's receiving the ball with his back to goal, I feel like he'd be okay potentially, in that 8, position. Again, here he's got the passing range, looks up, always got his head on a swivel, but also has his head up to be able to find the option. So either he can play it to the left here, obviously, to this player, or with his ability, he's got a good passing range. So I feel like he'd be able to pick out that player, obviously, on that right-hand side who's making, the run. And again, when he's in that 8 position, he's cute enough to get the ball in to the forward areas for anybody who is making a run. So imagine if that was Gakpo, for example, making that forward run where the arrow is obviously pointing. And obviously you can see he's going to dink that ball in to that position. So all in all, I think if I had to give it a probability rating, I don't really know, because I'm still a little bit confused as to the type of deals that Liverpool, or the type of players that Liverpool are trying to sign, for next season. If I'm thinking about him, would I sign him? If the fee's right, he's a player I'm adding to the list. I'm going to compile a list anyway for the summer of players that I think Liverpool should probably be in for at the bare minimum. Whether we get them or not is irrelevant, but just players that I think we should potentially get. I'm putting him in that list from everything I've seen. And this season, obviously, helping Feyenoord to win the league has obviously upped his stock quite a lot. And I think that a player who's comfortable on the ball, a player who's got good passing ability, good technical ability, good close ball control, dribbling ability, a positional awareness, very, very good. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself that those are all very, very big plus points. Now, if we're looking at the weakness side of him, again, as we saw with I'm looking at the matchups and things like that, that's where I'm a bit like, okay, so when it comes to ground jewels, you're not really the one in that kind of position. Is that because of the team or not? Whatever it is, that's an area of weakness for him. But on the ball, and someone who maybe plays a little bit deeper in a Liverpool team, potentially, maybe that might actually suit his role a lot better, in terms of being able to pick up the ball from the defense and things like that. Maybe we play in a different formation. Who knows? But again, these are all just thoughts in regards, to Kokcu. But, decent player. And as I said, Liverpool have been linked with him. He's a bit of a, he has made a bit of noise this season, a couple controversial things I'm not going to speak on. Obviously you guys can do your own research behind that. So it just really depends. It really does depend on the type of midfielders that Liverpool are looking to sign. I don't think Liverpool are going to go out and sign 4 starting midfielders, in the summer kind of thing, as much as we all want that to happen. So, expect to see a Jones, maybe even a Henderson or a Fabinho. I think at least 2 out of that 3 might potentially start the season. So with that being said, you're going to need options on the bench. And obviously the options that we've had on the bench haven't been good enough. So this will potentially up the quality, within the team in itself. So guys, make sure you check him out. That's another, obviously, episode of Scout Report. Orkun Kokcu of Feyenoord, decent player, Turkish international, making waves, obviously, this season. Be on the lookout. I think if a club comes in with the right bid, especially if they lose their manager as well, comes in with the right bid, I think he could be a player who could potentially be on the move. But there you have it. Episode done. Make sure you smash that like. Make sure you smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Please let me know in the comment section what other player you want me to kind of take a look at. Realistic ones, please. A player that you think that it would do well in this Liverpool team, whether it be as a starter, whether it be as a very good option for the team to have. We need to look at both sides of things. I'm G, Scout Report done, and I am out.